Okay, so tonight we continue with the exam prep. Again, nearly a mixed match of different assignment questions from last assignment. There's some exam questions. Just basically continuing with this. This one is to do with a bit of a ratio question, so some measurement with ratios, and you guys will see there's a few different ones that we will cover in tonight's session. Okay, so here they ask us the points A, B, C, and D. Divide the line AD, so we basically get a few segments of a line in the ratio of 2.5, 1 1/3, and 5/6. And then they tell us the length of AB, and they want us to work out what is the length of BD. Okay, so we get that AB is equal to 30, and we nearly know that 2.5, 1 1/3, and 5/6. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do, and that 30 then represents the AB. So we will need to make sure that we work with the same fraction, or the same, at least if you look at 2.5, that we put it in the same way as 1 1/3 and 5/6. So I would first try and simplify everything. So 2.5 will be 2 times 2 plus 1 is 5/2. So I'll first do that, and then I'll see if we need to then get everything again on one common divider, so that we can get everything the same. So 2.5 is 5/2. 1 1/3 is 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4/3. And then we have 5/6. Okay, so now I would want everything to be in the form that it is divided or on the fraction of 6, so that we can compare. So I would want everything on 6. Okay, so if we want to put 5/2 on 6, I need to multiply at the bottom by 3. But what I do at the bottom, I do at the top. The 5/2 will be 15/6. So that at least is now the same. And then the 4/3, to turn that into 6, I will multiply at the bottom by 2. And what I do at the bottom, I must do at the top. Okay, so now at least we've got 15/6, 8/6, and 5/6 that are in the same fractions. So now we know that we're actually working with 15, 8, and 5. So if AB, the 15, is equal to 30 centimeters, so that was then times 2 to get to the 30. I will say I need to times 2 in the middle, and that I will get then 16. So what was that? BC. And then if I want the length of CD, I need to say the 5 times 2 will give me that length. Okay, so we will then have a free length as 50, 16, and 10. So 50, 16, and 10, and then they can ask us a few things. So they ask here, what's the length of BD? So that will be 16 plus 10. They could have asked us, what's the length of BC? Oh, sorry, this one is BC. They could have asked us the length of CD. And they could have asked us the length of AD. So if they ask us AD, that would have been 50 plus 16 plus 10, which would have given us the 56. If they ask us BC, that would have been 16. If I ask us for CD, that would have been the 10. And if they ask us B to D, so that was then 16 plus the 10. But you can see basically they could have nearly always the answer for each one of the others. So they basically made sure that you need to know which one, but they could basically ask you, there's an option for CD, there's an option for BC, and the option for AD. So they could have asked you any one of those different ones. Okay, so this one was a ratio where, but they need to give you at least some information within that to be able to, at this point, when you get to the fractions, to use that extra information. So they need to at least give you a length of one of these to be able to use that. Okay, so that was a ratio question. Then they ask us to look at the following table represents data. There's an X and a Y, and then they say the straight line that has a greater slope and greater y-intercept than the straight line described by the linear function above is. Sure. Okay, so let's just see. Let's say this is a straight line. So do we want to just work out the difference in slope? Okay, so let's work out what this slope is. So they say this is a straight line. So if we go for the information that they say it's a straight line, we can work out the slope as the change in y over the change in x. Then it's supposed to be anyone. So if we take that as y2, y1, x2, x1, or even some of the others, it's supposed to give us the same. So change in y is 9 minus 5. Change in x is 1 minus 1. So 9 minus 5 is 4. 1 minus minus 1. So minus times minus is positive. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So we've got a slope of 2 for this line. So that will be 2x plus b. We don't need to work out anything else yet. The straight line that has a greater slope and a greater y. Okay, so now we need to go for the y-intercept. Okay, so we at least know that the slope needs to be more than 2. So that slope is 2. We're looking for a greater slope. So it's 10, 5, or 3. So we've got the slope, but now they say, okay, now we also need to check what is the y-intercept. So we can use any one of these four numbers and put it back into that original formula that we have as y is equal to 2x plus b. So let's put this one in. Y is 13. Again, you can use any one of those points. That is equal to x, that is 3. So 2 times 3 plus b. So 13, this is 6. We need to take that to the left-hand side. So 13 minus 6 is equal to b. B is equal to 7. So a straight line that has a greater slope and a greater y-intercept than this straight line described is, okay, so that one has a greater slope. Okay, so all of them have the greater slopes, but where is your y-intercept? Must be bigger than 7. That is not bigger than 7. That is not bigger than 7. So the only one that is bigger than the slope of 2 and bigger than the y-intercept is 3, which is bigger than 2, and 7.5, which is bigger than 7. So the only possible one is option D. Option A, you had the y-intercept that's bigger, but not the slope. Here you had the slope, there you had the slope, but not the y-intercept. So that's why A, B, and C is wrong. So the two that will work is x, 3x, and plus 7.5. Okay, but first we needed to work out the slope, and you can go and test this with any other 2 points. So again, if it was 17 and 13, we would also have gotten 4. So 17 minus 13 would also have given us 4, and 5 minus 3 would also have given us 2. So it really doesn't matter which 2 points you use, you will get that 2 for the slope. Okay, so this was from last semester, one of the assignments. So a bit different how they asked it. So they could still have asked the traditional question of saying you've got 2 points and you need to work out the linear equation. But in this process, what they did is to ask you to work it out and then pick one of these that is a bit bigger in slope and a bit bigger in y cutoff. Okay, but the process, how you did it was still the same if I have just asked you to write down this as a formula. Okay, so let's look at this one because this was also an interesting one in a sense. So if A is bigger than 0 and B is smaller than 0, which one of the following statements must be true? Then I give you a few. So let's see, if A is bigger than 0, we know A is positive. If B is smaller than 0, we know that B is negative. So if we have positive times negative, that will be negative. So we know firstly that that one is not going to work, because if A is positive, B is negative, then positive times negative is going to be negative, which means it's going to be smaller than 1, smaller than 0 and not bigger than 0. So that one is the easiest one to nearly eliminate. So let's look now from the top. So A positive minus minus. So a minus times a minus is a positive. Okay, so you could have used 17 here as well. I just used 13 and 3, but you could have used 17 and 5. So if you used 17 and 5, it would have been 17 minus 10 would have been equal to B. So then B is also equal to 7. So you could have used 17 and 5. You could have used 13 and 3. You could even have used 9 and 1, or 5 and minus 1. And each one of those will give you that B is equal to 7. So it does not matter which one. So you could have used 5 and minus 1, 9 and 1, 13 and 3, or 17 and 5. And it will each time give you 7. Okay, so you could, and let's quickly check with this one as well. So if it was, let's quickly, sorry, I want to just that away. And so let's say your points was 9 and 1 that you used. If you used 1 and 9, no, y would have been 9. That would have been equal to 2 times 1 plus b. So then it would have been 9 minus 2, which would have also given you 7. Okay, so you could use any one of these 4 points to put into that equation, and you will get then that b is equal to 7. So any one of these 4 points you can use. Okay, so that's the important thing, that doesn't matter which point you use, it will give you the same answer. Okay. Cool. Okay, so let's continue with this one. So A is positive, B negative. So negative times a negative will give us basically that we say a positive plus a positive. So that must give you a bigger than 0. So if we said 5 negative times -7, it would have been 5 plus 7. So negative times the negatives will give us a positive. So that will be bigger than 0. So that is correct. So let's look. B is a negative number. And if we say minus a positive number, that means we're going to have a negative number, and we're going to have a negative number. So two negative numbers added together will be smaller than 0. So if it was -2 plus -3, it will be -5. It will be smaller than 0. So that's why that one is wrong. And then if we had a plus and we have a minus, like they say, it does not mean that it will always be bigger than 0. If it was 1 and that was 3, or -3 in this instance, 1 plus -3 will still be negative. So this one can be that it's bigger or smaller or even equal to 0, depending on what the numbers is. So that is why option C is also incorrect. What you also can do to make this easier, and let's quickly do that. So let's duplicate the slide. So what we can do is to say, okay, but hang on, let's, instead of now just using positive and negative, and A must be bigger than 0. So let's say A is equal to 5. B must be smaller than 0. So let's say B is equal to -3. Okay, so then let's check. So 5A minus -3. So 5 minus -3 is equal to +8. 8 is bigger than 0. And so that we're happy with. -3 would be -5. That will actually be -8. So that is smaller than 0. They're telling us it's bigger than 0. So that's wrong because it needs to be smaller. 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. So that for these two numbers, that will be bigger than 0. So let's just come back to that one. And then A times B, 5 times -3 will be equal to -15, which is smaller than 0. So that is also wrong. Okay, so let's see. What if A was 3 and B was -5? Those will still all be fine, but let's now see. A is 3 plus -5 is equal to -2, which is smaller than 0. Okay, so this one is the one that can actually be bigger than 0, and it can be smaller than 0 to make it correct. Okay, so that's just another way to look at maybe some options. You can even make it that your two numbers are the same and saying, well, A is 5, B is equal to -5, and you can work it out with that as well. Then again, you will see that will be 10, that will be minus 10, that will give you actually 0, which is then also incorrect. And again, that will give you a negative because it's a negative times a positive. Okay, so you can really play with numbers like this to see what the outcome will be. Okay, so now they go into a bit more detail to say, well, now we give you numbers. So A is equal to minus 3, B is equal to 4, and C is equal to minus 5. So work out what is A plus B plus C. Okay, so I haven't read. So if A is minus 3, B is equal to 4, and C is equal to minus 5, then by how much is the product of A, B, C greater than the sum of A, B, C? Okay, so that I have misread at the beginning. So let's see, A times B times C is minus 3 times 4 times minus 5. And that is, where's my calculator? I'm not now going to try to work this out in my head. So minus 3 times 4 is 12 times minus 5 gives me 60. Okay, so that's on this side. ABC is 60. And then if I set, okay, what is greater than A plus B plus C, so that is minus 3 plus 4 minus 5. So minus 3, again, going to use calculator. Minus 3 plus 4 is plus 1. Plus 1 minus 5 is minus 4. So 60 is how many times bigger than that? So if you want to do it this way, you can take that over. So 60 plus 4. So it becomes 64, bigger than. And there we have it as option D. Okay, so important here is the signs, because if you set minus 3 times 4 times minus 5 is minus 60, you brought that over, you would have had 65. If you add that as 60 and you made a mistake here, or if you had that as minus 64, you will have, oh, sorry, minus 60, minus 64, and that you will get that answer. How do we get to 48? So if we set 3 plus 4 plus 5, it's 12. So if we set 60 minus 12, and we had again the signs wrong, 60 minus 12 would have given you 48. So what we're testing in this question is that you know how to work with the negative signs. And if you multiply with negatives, that a negative times a negative is a positive. But if you add it, it stays the same. Okay. So that's what they tested here in this question, that you basically know that the negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, so that was a bit of numbers and ratios, and then there is a part in the study guide that also focuses on permutations and combinations. Um, and this is a question around permutations and combinations. But let's see what they ask us to first see if it is a permutation or combination, because most likely for each of them there is also a an answer that will work. Okay, also on your calculators, we've got most of your financial calculators will have a permutation and a combination key. So what we normally need to get is what is the N and what is the R. Then also what is important is we can, if you guys are going to use Excel, there is in Excel also those formulas. So I just want to quickly show you. So we're going to check now if we want to use it, but there's a permutation. So, and you can see what they ask for. Permutation is just the N and the R. And there is also a combination one where, again, they ask you for combination, a number, and the R. Okay, so you can use your financial calculator. You're allowed to use Excel. And if you want to use the formulas, let me quickly see if I have it on the formula page, else I will add it for you. I actually don't see it on the formula page. Let me just quickly check. No, I don't see it. So oh yeah, I do. So it is also on your formula page. The permutation one, they tell us it's n factorial divided by n minus r factorial, and the combination also on the formula page is n factorial divided by n minus r factorial times r factorial. Okay, so you nearly have three ways to work it out. So let's look at what is all the info. So in a lottery, players must match 5 numbers plus a bonus number. 5 white balls are chosen from 59 white balls numbered 1 to 59, and 1 red ball, the bonus number, is chosen from 35 red balls numbered 1 to 35. Okay, so you've got here that we now work with 2 sets. So one is 5 white balls out of 59. So is it a combination or is it a permutation? What would you guys have said? And you can, in the chat just say, is it a P or is it a C? So is it a combination or is it a permutation? Which one would you guys have gone for? And you can just, and even if you're guessing, it's also fine. You can tell me what you would have. If this was now in the exam, what would you have gone for? Permutation or combination? Okay, cool. So you say permutation. So would you have said, okay, so would we have gone for N59 permutation 5? Would we have gone for something like that for the white balls, and then 35 permutation 1 for the red balls, and multiply those two with one another? Is that what you would have done? Just quickly want to, as we're speaking. Okay, so let's, and what I'll show you as well is, and that is unfortunate again with a lot of these DSC. So with QMI, BNU, DSC, a lot of them, unfortunately, we will have, if you use permutation and if you use combination, there will be an answer. Okay, so permutation. So if I put that in, I'm not going to do that in the formula base, because then it's going to be 59 factorial divided by that factorial. So that is going to be one big answer. So what I am going to do is to look at it and first see and just read that again. But okay, so let's quickly check. I'm gonna quickly use Excel, and I want to use that permutation one, and I said my number was 59 and chosen 5 numbers. Okay, so that already gives me that big number. So now we need to think, is the permutation the right thing that we've done? Format cells, I just want to quickly that. Okay, so that was the mutation for the 59. And then we said, but okay, we need to do a permutation for the 35. The 35 is going to be 35 and 1, because there's just one number. Okay, and then to get the total, we will then need to say the two times one another. Okay, so let's quickly, and so that is, if we were working with permutations, so that would have been My answer, okay, so there isn't one, but let's quickly. In a lottery, players must have five numbers plus a bonus number. Five white balls are chosen from 59 white balls. Okay, so let's quickly check if they tell us what permutation. Returns the number of permutation given. So let's just for, and let's just quickly go for what the meaning of permutation is. Okay. And look at that last part, ordered and arranged. So do we worry about the order of joining merging? Okay, so do we worry about the order in this? And that's very important. So do we worry if the first number is 1 or the first number is 10 or the first number is 20? Okay, so we don't worry about order. So we're actually not working with a permutation in this instance. We're working with a combination. Okay, so we don't worry about any order. If they said to us that ball 1 must be first, ball 5 is second, then we have an order. So also remember, if you guys look at the lotto and the balls comes out randomly, so but then in the end they will just show you the 5 balls that won. But it was never in that order. So we actually working with a combination in this instance. Okay, so it is important because now check if we say combination for those two. So combination of the 59 and combination of the 35. So there already one can see there's one of the answers coming through, but then we need the combination of 35. Okay, and then we see that it is option C. So very important here is that we actually going to work with a combination. And the reason why we're working with a combination is because we don't worry about which number comes out first. Okay, so very different if they said to us, okay, so let's quickly show again. Okay, so that combination, so I used the formulas of the 59 because that is n is 59, and they told us there is 5 white balls, so that is the 5. So if we used this formula, which is going to be way too much, but then it would have been 59 factorial divided by 59 minus 5 factorial 5 factorial. Okay, so that is just too many numbers to add to your calculator, but also if you have this on your calculator, we could have set 59. Now I just need to get to it. In 5. So on my calculator, we need to go to 59 NCR, so it will be 59N, and then I would put in the 5 as for C, sorry, the 5 as for R, and then I will also get 5006,386, 5006,386, and then the second one for the red ball is 35 combination 1, and that will just be 35 because you basically pick one number with 35 outcomes, so 35 times 1. And those two then, if you multiply those two together, you will get the 175,223,501. Okay, so important nearly to be able to on your calculator, and let's quickly see if I can quickly get a view of just my to see if I have this on my. Okay, so there is a few nice video clips as well. So I just quickly Googled combination function calculator, and then there is a few nice. So if you want to look at the Casio, there's a nice short YouTube video on the Casio. There's also a nice one on some of the other calculators that you can use. So I just basically set combination function calculator. But what is nice also, if you guys don't have a financial calculator, and you want to test this out, look at. I just quickly want to check why is it not now on here. So let's just quickly go back. So that combination, so here we could have set the 59 and the 5, and we could calculate it, and there was that answer for us. And then if we set the 35 and 1, it also works it out for us, so we can see it is 35. So also very nice is this calculator, and I'm gonna put the link in the chat, but I will also put the link in this presentation so that you guys, when I share it on the group, you can get into that link as well. Because yeah, it is a nice link to sometimes just use one of the online calculators to verify if you're working or doing it correctly. Okay, so let's look at another question from nearly that first part of your study guide. So Jeffrey left 4/7 of his estate to his wife. So this again is a ratio question, but let's see what they also, um, a quarter of a remainder to his granddaughter. Okay, so left 4 out of 7 of his estate to his wife, a quarter of a remainder. So what's left is 3/7, and of that, he gave a quarter to his granddaughter. The part of his estate that is not accounted for, given as a fraction. Okay, so what I would have said is the part that was not given account for is when those 3/7, but not the quarter of it, the 3/4 of it. So that is how I would have done it, but I'm going to show you another way. So that is 3 times 4, 3 times 3 is 9. 7 times 4 is 28. So that is a quick way to get to that 9 over 28. Okay, but let me show you just another way. So we have a 4/7 of a wife. We've got the granddaughter. So the granddaughter is getting 3/28. So we want to know how much the wife is getting if we want to say it's over 28. So that will be 4/4 that we multiplied. So the wife is getting 16 out of 28. The granddaughter is getting 3 out of 28. So if we add those two together, it is 19 out of 28. So what is left? The 28 minus 19 over 28 is left. So that will also give you 9/28. So there was another way that you could work out what is the fraction that is not accounted for. Okay, so the easiest way is to say, well, they told us that what is left will be divided to a quarter to the granddaughter, and the rest is unaccounted for. So that rest is 3/4. So if I take the 3/7 times 3/4, I get the 9/28. But we can also work it out as what proportion out of 28 is the wife getting, what proportion out of 28 is the granddaughter getting. If we add those together, we see they are getting 19 out of 28. So what is left is basically 28 minus 19, which also gives us 9. Okay, so this one, a bit of ratios with fractions, and we need to work out what is the component or the fraction that is left. Okay, cool. So let's go to the next one. Okay, cool. Okay, so this was one of last semester and it's very blurry. So what I wanted to show you guys in this one is they ask us there exists a relationship between x and y. In the following tables, the independent variable is represented by x and the dependent variable is represented by y. So that is x and that is y. And for each of them, P, Q, R, and S. And which table represents a relationship that is not a function? Okay, so those numbers were -2, -3, 1, 3, 3, -3, and 5, 3. So that was P. Then what we see in this one, so I'm just going to rewrite it, was -1, -3, then it was 2, 1, 3, 7, 4, and 10. This one was -2, 3, 1, 3, 3, 3, 5, 3. So P, Q, R, and S. So 3, 4, 4, 5, 3 -4, 4 -5. Okay, so that was the four data sets, and they ask us which table represents a relationship that is not a function. Okay, so with that information, let's quickly just look at this and say, okay, x is -2, where it's -3, where x is 1, we get y is equal to 3. It goes something like that. Then where x is 3, y again is -3. Where x is 5, there, something like that. Okay, so that is this function. Then if we look at this function, it's, again, let's quickly draw it. X -1 and -3, then x2 will be there, x3, x7. So that looks like a nice function. So that will definitely be one that will be an option. Then this one, y's is all time free, so it's going to be a straight line like that. And then this function is a bit of a weird one. So x is 3 and 4. And okay, so here we have one that, so that is fine because we don't have a x value that has two y values. So that can go, that can go, that can go. But here we've got the x that is a 4. So x3 is 4 and x3 is -4. Okay, so this tells me that this is not a function, because we know with all our functions that when you put in a y value, you need to get an X value. But here you can put in two different Y values to get the same X value. So this one is not the function. All the other ones is functions, but not this fourth one. So the incorrect one would have been S. Okay, so I don't know if you guys got something like this in your set of assignments as well this semester. So it will be nice if you have a question like this that you guys can share with me. By all means, please put it on the WhatsApp group, and I can put it into our presentation of tomorrow, or in our session of tomorrow, or in the session of next week, because that will also be good to see if what they again have asked a question like this in your current assignments. Okay, so let's look at, now we go into a bit of financial calculations. So let's look what they ask us. Calculate the extra compound interest received. Sure. When 18,400 invested at 13.2% per annum for 11.5 years, interest paid annually is invested at the same rate but with interest paid monthly. Okay, so what they want you to do is to say, so we're going to do basically two calcs, and then we need to subtract the two from one another. So the first is you invest, so I assume that's a present value. You invest 18,400. So in both investments, you will do that. You will invest 18,400 at the interest rate of 13.2%. For 11 point, so N is 11.5. Then they say the first one is annually, so it is done how many times per year? Once. So we know that there will be 11.5 periods. The second one, they say we're going to invest it monthly, so that's where the change come in. So how many times per year is 12? So the number of periods is 12 times 11.5. That will be 158. Then we need to work out the future value of this one, the future value of this one, and then we will need to subtract the two from one another and see which answer we get. So quite a long process to get to the answer. So this is not a quick one to just say there's one quick way to doing it. So let's do the first one, 18,400. So I'm going to first put it into my financial calculator. So 18,400 present value, interest rate of 13.2%, one time per year for 11.5 years. So it is 11.5 periods. And then my future value for this one is 76. I hope this is right. 76,568,78. There's not even an answer there. That good. So let's hope that is correct. And then we follow the same process. 18,400 present value, 13.2 interest at 12 times per year. So that's the only change. So if we then say how many periods, that's 158. That future value that I'm getting is 83,267,84. That's that one. But then to get how much I'm getting more, I need to subtract the two. So 83,267.84 minus 76,568,78 gives me a 6699.06 as for answer, which is option 1 or option A. So that is if we use financial calculators. So let's quickly check if we can. So let me just put permutation. So let's just add here another sheet for us to quickly work that out. So I received a present value of 18,400. It was interest rate was 13.2%. So we know that the period time per year was once, N was 11.5. So the periods for the year was one time that, so it was 11.5, and our interest rate for the period in this instance was the same. And then we wanted to work out the future value. So there's a nice formula again within Excel that does the future value. You need to put in the rate. So that is that one, the number of periods. There was no monthly or other contributions. It was just a present value. So there you see we also got the 76 number. So then I just want to do a copy of this so that we can do the and then if we subtract the 2, we will get our answer. So let's just quickly, the other one was 12 times. That's the only difference. So there we've got the 83, there we've got the 76, and there we have the one that we're looking for, 6699.06. So I will definitely also share this with you so that you have it. So again, you can use the financial calculator, you can use Excel. You're allowed to use calculators, Excel. You could use the formula sheet if you want to use that. I will share the formula sheet again with you guys, so that you have it. I've written some notes on it as well. So I will share that with you guys as well. Then you basically have, so you guys can see which ones will be best for you to work with. Okay, let's go into another one. So again, now we jump back. Let's just quickly see. So that again is a ratio. Okay, so now we jump back into solving equations. And don't worry, tomorrow we'll continue. So I will have more on measurements and more on financial maths. You can see there's just on this 97 slide, we only had 50. So we've got, and please again, you can add any questions that you want us to discuss in these sessions. If there was any questions that you struggled with during the assignments, and you want us to go over it, please pop it in our WhatsApp group. I will definitely look at it. So there is already a few in there, so I will add that to our discussion in the way forward. Okay, so let's look at this one. We need to solve this equation. So what we need to do is the easiest way is to get rid of what we are dividing with. So I want to get rid of that y and that 2y. So how I can get rid of it is to multiply straight through with the biggest component, which is 2y. And what I will show you is, so let's do that without cancelling out now. We can cancel out in the next step. So that we can just see what we are allowed to do. That is equal to minus 7 times 2y. Okay, so what we are then allowed to do is to say y divided by y, so that goes into one another once. So we're left with 2 times 5, which is 10. Then on this side, we can say, well, 2y goes into 2y, so that is nicely, it cancels out. But now, very important with what's left here, the 6y plus 6, is that you remember what the sign is. Okay, so remember what that sign is. So it's negative, and that then we need to say minus times the 6y is minus 6y, and minus times the positive 6 is negative 6. Okay, so if we don't multiply that out with a negative, we will, and we can quickly look at that afterwards, we will get a different answer that we would have selected. Okay, and minus 7 times 2y is minus 14y. So I want to get all the y's on the one side. So minus 6y plus 14y is equal to 10 goes to the right hand, so it becomes minus 10. The negative 6 go to that side, so it becomes positive 6. So we've got minus 6y plus 14y, that's 8y. and that is equal to minus 10 plus 6, which is minus 4. The y is equal to minus 4 over 8, which is equal to minus a half, which is option B. If we had it here, and let's quickly duplicate and just show you. So if we had it here, but we did not multiply by the negative, we would have had positive and positive. So I would have brought this over. I still would have gotten the 8y. So wait, no, I would have gotten, that would have been positive. Maybe there wasn't an answer. So let's quickly see. That would have gone to that side. So we would have had 20y. That would have been, when instead of the negative there or the positive, it would have been negative. So it would have been negative 16. Okay, so luckily there actually wasn't an answer, which is good. So if one does make this mistake, one don't have it, so y would have been okay, so cool. So there would not have been an answer for this, which is great. So if you made that mistake and you then get to this point, there isn't an answer. So that is actually great. Sometimes they would work with your mistake to give you an option. But in this instance, there wasn't. So that is actually very nice. So that if you get into this stage, you can see, okay, I made a mistake somewhere, and then I need to go and look for where that mistake is. Okay, so that is actually cool. So I'm going to actually delete that one. So we have that option that we worked with. Okay, so then this was another question, and I added here the average speed information bit for you guys, because when I read this, I was like, really, I got a bit confused, because this is not something that I have actually seen in some of the study guides. So when I saw this in last year's assignments as well, I was a bit worried. So let's look at what they give us in this one. So they say in this one that at 1815, Bonita left her house to drive to airport at an average speed of 65 kilometers an hour. At 9 o'clock, her boyfriend Bernard left Bonita's house and followed her path at an average speed of 104 kilometers an hour. Then they say Bonita and Bernard arrived at the airport at exactly the same time. Then they say a linear relationship exists between the time and the distance traveled. The time is dependent on the number of kilometers traveled. Answer the following question. Determine the distance from Bonita's house to the airport correct to 2 decimals, and then determine the time they arrived at the airport. Okay, so what I did in this instance, when I first read this, I was looking at it and said, okay, um, she left at 1815, her house. She drove at 65 kilometers an hour. Um, then he left at 9, he drove at that. Um, but then we needed to look at they traveling a certain distance. So the one travels it at 65 kilometers an hour. The other one in the same distance, so they actually doing the same distance, doing it at 104 kilometers an hour. Okay, so the first thing that I did was to say, okay, but let's look at what they say. What is average speed? So average speed is, and that I don't think was in your study guides. It is total distance divided by time. So we've got the average speed for the one person. We've got the average speed for the other person. We know that the total is the same. So can we get to the time component? So what I said when I worked this out is, okay, but so for Bonita, it was 65 total divided by time. So I want to get total on its own, so it is 65 times time. And then we do the same for Bernard. So, and his one was 104 times time, because we know that the total will be the same. So the total distance will be the same for both of them. Okay, so if we then put that into context, we basically get the distance that they will travel. So let's do that a bit differently. So when I first looked at this one, I was playing between all the formulas to nearly see what could work, what could not work. So this was not like one where I was looking at it and said, okay, I know exactly what to do. And I think that's also why I wanted to go through this, so that when you guys are getting something like this in the exam, nearly to see that if you don't know what to do, and I think your guys' exam is linear. If I remember right from your assignment, the last one as well, just let me know if your exam is linear or not. Because if something like this is in the exam and you're writing linear, you can't come back to a question like this. So then it might be very time consuming to work out a question like this. Okay, so I looked at this and then I said, okay, let's see what information do we have. We need to get the distance, and then if we have the distance, we need to get the time of arrival. Okay, so I basically said, well, let's look at that formula. I need to get to total distance. Okay, so it is linear. So what that means is if this is a question in your exam that is midway through, this can take up lots of your time. So you guys need to nearly then decide if you are gonna take longer and work it out, or if you are going to guess an answer and move on to the next one. It's not that you can skip it and mark it and say, I'm coming back for it. Okay, so I think that is the important thing that you guys need to nearly see with a lot of these questions also is if you look at this question and you now tried it on your own, how long is it going to take you if you get something like this in the exam? Because you don't want to spend 15 to 20 minutes on a question and maybe not finish up. So that is always the nearly one thing that you guys need to keep in mind when you're doing this specifically this exam paper for QMI, because there might be one or two difficult questions that eat a lot of your time when you could have gotten all of the questions, but now you're missing out on the last five, which might be easier questions. So that is nearly the important thing I want to also get out of this question. So total distance, average times total time. So what I said is, okay, so let's look at this total distance from where Bonita is driving. So she's doing it at the average speed, and it takes her X time to do it. Then let's do the same for Bernard. So Bernard is doing it, is taking 104 minutes of doing it, but he is driving, look at that, 45 minutes less. So if Bonita is taking X time, Bernard will take X minus 45 over 60. So if she is taking 3 hours to get there, he will take 2 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, so that means we can put these two as the one is average time times the total time. He is driving average time times that total time. So then we actually have a nice formula that we can work with. We've got 65x that is equal to 104x minus and 104 times, let's quickly see, times 45 divided by 60 is actually minus 78. So now we can take that to that side again. So 104 minus 65. So we've got 39x x is, or minus 59x is equal to minus 78. So we have that x is equal to 2 hours. Okay, so 2 hours is 120 minutes. So Bonita left at 8:15. She will arrive in 2 hours' time, so they will arrive at 10:15. Okay, so here are two of them that is 10:15. So we now have two that we need to pick out of. But again, we've used that average speed is equal to total distance divided by total time. Then to get total distance, I said it's average speed times total time. And then I just looked at what Bonita did and what Bernard did. And I said that that is the same because we can say it's the same because they are doing the same distance. If it was not the same distance, then we can't use this, and then they would not have asked a question like this. So now we have the distance or the average speed. We've got the time. So now we can work out also what is the total distance. So we can work out total distance is equal to the average speed. So that is 65 kilometers an hour times 2 hours. So the total distance is going to be 150 kilometers, which is also still that one. So our correct answer would have been D. We can also put that in this calculation. So if we wanted to say 104 kilometers an hour, then it would have been 104 times 1.15, I think. So let's just quickly see. Okay, not 15. What is 15 divided by 60? Okay, 0.26. So that, let me quickly just do that again. 45. Why is my calculator? Sorry, I just need to clear all. 15 divided by 60 is 0.25. So plus 1. So it will take Bernard 1.25 hours. And if he travels at 104 kilometers an hour, 104 times 1.25 hours will also give you 150. Okay, so just again, if we do it the other way around to say it was Bernard's average speed times the total time, we will also get the total distance. Okay, so this was one of those questions that if you now see how it's done, it's quick to do it, but it does take up a lot of time. And I also can't remember if we actually had the average speed in our study guide. So that is why I have added it in this slide so that if also something like this comes up in the exam, you have the average speed formula as well, because it's not something that we are used to working with. We nearly have it in the back of our minds if we travel at the average speed, but it's not always clear that it's the total distance over the total time that. So that's why I just thought let's add it for you guys. If something like that does come up, you have it as well. Okay, so the last one for tonight, this again is from a previous exam paper. So let me just, and you can see it was very bad, the copy that I got. So let me just rewrite this for you guys, and then we'll do a simplification on this, and then solve the x. And so the first thing, when I look at this, I will multiply out by the 2 so that at least the bracket is gone. So that would be my first thing, is to say 2 times x, 2 times that. So at least that bracket is gone. Now we sit with 3 different fractions. So what I will look at is the biggest of them, and use that to eliminate and nearly simplify. So what I will do is to say, okay, I want to nearly say multiply by 12 all through, so that we will be able to simplify it. So for now, let's, like I did with the other one, let's just first put this down. We can simplify now. So that is times 12. Okay, so now let's simplify. Now it's easier to get this right. So 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 12 3 times, and then we can multiply that out. So 3 times 2x is 6x, 3 times minus 2 is minus 6. Then I'll do the same for the next one. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 12 4 times. Remember the negative, so 4 times 3 is 12x, but it's minus 12x. And then on the right-hand side, 12 goes into 12 once, 12 goes into 12 once, so we sit with 4 minus 3x. Okay, so then we can simplify a bit. 6x minus 6x, or minus 12x, is minus 6x. Minus 6 is equal to 4 minus 3x. Then take all the x's to the left-hand side. Okay, wait, let me quickly see. Okay, thank you. And how easy that is to make a mistake like that. Okay, so that was 4 times 2, it's 8. Thank you very much for that. Then 6x minus 8 will be minus 2x. Sure. Okay, thank you for that. And that I did not. And let's quickly check. So that was fine. And that was fine. Cool. Thank you very much for that, Prudence. So then take all the x's to the left-hand side. So that will become positive. So we've got positive x here, and then we take the minus 6 to that side, will become positive 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. Sure. Okay, so there it is. If I went on that route where it was minus 6, I would have gotten minus 6. That would have become, so minus 3. Okay, so it would just have been totally wrong. Okay, so just again shows how easy it is to make a mistake. And it wasn't even a calculation mistake, it was just rewriting it. Okay, so that is, let's quickly just check, that's fine. So x is equal to 10. What you can also do always is put that 10 back into that formula. So if you put that 10 back into that formula, you will see, okay, well, it's 4 minus 3 times 10. So 4 minus 50, okay, that's minus 26. Minus 26 divided by 12. Okay, that's not even a great answer as well. Okay, I would have loved it if it was something different. 4 minus 50, minus 26 divided by 12. So that is not nice because it's a fraction. So whatever the answer is, if you put back, it is going to be a fraction, but you can check it in and it will be the same on both sides, so that it will work out. So I think always you can put that answer back into your formula and check it, and it will work out. Okay, so that is it for tonight, everyone. We will continue tomorrow night. It's going to be the same link that we used for tonight's session. Again at 5:30. The session again will also be recorded, so if you can't make it, it's fine. There will be a recording. But yeah, so up until your writing exam, we are now gonna do Mondays and Tuesdays, just to give you a bit